House Minority Leader, Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Thank you so much, Congressman, for being on the show this morning. Define what happened last night.
Well, good morning. It was a big night for the American people. And what we saw is that Democratic candidates prevailed up and down the ballot all across the country, focused on affordability, focused on making life more affordable for everyday Americans, driving down the high cost of living, protecting health care, and of course, moving this country back to a better place and making America the best version of herself, as opposed to the extremism that we've seen unleashed on everyday Americans by Donald Trump and compliant Republicans from the very beginning of his presidency.
Leader Jeffries, good morning. We've had you on the show and many Democrats on the show over the last year, let's call it, after Donald Trump returned to office, wondering about what Democrats' message should be, how they got in this place, how did Donald Trump win again? And we saw it play out yesterday, and understanding that the message in every state and every race and city is a little bit different. But as you wake up this morning with these sweeping wins really across the country, what is now the Democratic message going forward to the midterms a year from now?
Well, our message to the American people as House Democrats, and I think we've seen that also across the country, is you deserve better than the country that Donald Trump has delivered. He promised to lower the high cost of living on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Grocery costs through the roof, housing costs out of control, child care costs, of course, out of control, electricity bills through the roof. And now, over this Donald Trump Republican shutdown, we've seen the longest now in American history. They refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, risking tens of millions of Americans experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. In some instances, health care costs will increase by $1,000 or $2,000 per month on working class Americans. Democrats are making clear we want to lower the high cost of living, we want to fix our broken health care system, and we want to clean up corruption to make America the best version of herself, as opposed to what we're seeing from this administration, which is the largest pay-to-play scheme in the history of the world, where they are enriching themselves, their friends, and their family members.
So, Leader Jeffries, much has been made of the big tent last night and what was a very successful Democratic evening in smaller races like Pennsylvania and Georgia. But the three primary ones, where you have moderates in New Jersey and Virginia, and obviously a self-proclaimed Democratic socialist in New York City. What lessons can you glean from that as you look to issues and candidates for next year?
Well, Abigail focused relentlessly on affordability and driving down the high cost of living in Virginia. Mikey Sherrill, of course, focused relentlessly on affordability and dealing with some of the escalating prices that have been experienced in New Jersey. And of course, Zoran has focused relentlessly on affordability. That's the connective tissue that we've seen all across the country.
So, Leader Jeffries, in the midst of all this, and probably factoring in, especially in the state of Virginia, is this government shutdown, now officially the longest in our history, 36 days. There's been some talk, but we've heard this before, about behind-the-scenes negotiations, that now the two sides perhaps are willing to come to the table and get people back to work, get SNAP benefits back into people's hands. What is the state of the negotiation over this shutdown?
Well, our position as Democrats remain clear. We need to reopen the government. We want to find a bipartisan path forward to enact a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people, including dealing with the fact that America is too expensive right now, and we have to also decisively address the Republican health care crisis. We've repeatedly maintained as Democrats that we will sit down with anyone, anytime, any place, either on Capitol Hill or back at the White House, in order to do what is necessary to end this Trump Republican shutdown. But unfortunately, Republicans have continued to take a my way or the highway approach. That's what they did in their one big ugly bill. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripped food out of the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans, with a $186 billion cut to SNAP. They did that in July. And all of this was done so they could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. The American people are rejecting that level of extremism, and it's certainly our hope that Republicans will see the need to change course, sit down with us as Democrats, and we can find our way out of this, unfortunately, very painful shutdown that the American people have been experiencing.
House Minority Leader, Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for that inspiring and truthful words. And that's what we need here is the truth. And I think that what we've been able to see here today, where the President of the United States and where the Republicans really are, and what they are really doing and not doing here in Washington, D.C., as families across the country struggle to make ends meet. They're not making life affordable. That's what the president talked about when he initially ran. We're going to make things affordable. They're not making sure that people receive the kind of care, health care, one of the reasons why this government is shut down by them. What they're doing is taking away food, taking food out of the disabled's mouths, taking food out of seniors' mouths, taking food out of children's mouths. That is what they're doing. And that's what we've got to deal with. And that's why we've been here week after week waiting for them to come back to the table. When have you ever seen, in the middle of a shutdown, a president of the United States, instead of sitting in the White House, bringing people together to try to figure out how do we work together to have a bipartisan solution? It has never happened before. This president has spent more time on the golf course than spending time with leaders here to resolve this issue. This president has spent more time around the world. Most times when people around the world, even presidents, have serious business around the world, but when there's a domestic problem, they say, I got to get up and come home and try to help resolve the issues that are before us. Not this guy. Not this Congress. In fact, he showed you. We said that, and he lies. That's what he does. And that's not something that I'm just saying. You know, just go back to 2016. That's what Marco Rubio said. He was a liar. That's what all of the lead Republicans said right now, that he was a liar. And he's lying again. Even when you're talking about negotiating something, he doesn't intend to. We've seen it in his big, ugly bill. There's been shutdowns before. Never in the history of this country where there was a shutdown was there ever any threat to stop SNAP. Only with this immoral president who thinks he is king. In fact, what Trump said goes directly against what his own USDA was saying just hours ago. And is what his own press secretary said afterwards. With this administration, there's never order. It's just chaos and confusion. And so by choosing not to fully fund, and if you listen to him, not to fund, because we know now he doesn't want to fund SNAP. What the Republicans are doing, they're cutting the assistance, as indicated, of 42 million Americans. You know, I look at my district alone, 80,000 households rely on SNAP for nutrition and assistance. And at a time when the cost of a dozen eggs is at an all-time high, and people are already struggling to feed their families because of his tariffs, driving up the cost of everything, inflation increasing, and now he comes here, he reveals who he is. So I think that the American people are getting a glimpse of what we see and have to deal with every day. And I think that anytime you have someone that's leading, you got to look at the co-conspirators behind them. And that is the members of the Republican Party who refuse to come back here and on the floor and to work together to get this done. They are as guilty as he is, and they're going to pay for it at the polls. But we are going to stand. We're going to stand with the poor. We're going to stand with the neglected. We're going to stand with the disabled. We're going to stand for all of the American people and not play politics and cause them to have hunger and cause people to die. This is not a game. This is serious. Lives are on the line. We will stand. Where are my Republican colleagues who are supposed to put the Constitution first and the people first? They're not to be seen.
If you can and you're willing to get out and volunteer your time at your local food bank. There are people who are truly in need.
Congresswoman Julia Letlow is back from Washington, placing blame on Democrats for refusing to budge on the shutdown.
35 days we've been shut down. The House passed a clean CR with nothing attached to it, just to continue negotiations with the Democrats on our funding bills to get them across the line. For political reasons that I honestly can't understand, the Democrats are holding the people hostage.
For Democrats, the issue is health care and Obama-era subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of this year. If nothing is done, your premiums could increase.
We've always known that the cutoff date was coming, that we were going to have to address this in a bipartisan manner. Republicans have always been open to having those conversations. Honestly, I feel like that was just an issue that they picked out of the wind that they were going to shut the government down on.
Whatever the case, everyday people are feeling the impact. But in times of need,
Thank you.
humanity shows its face.
You just gave that lady your lunch.
Oh, yeah. I give them stuff when I see them. It can be from Pizza Hut or whatever. I see somebody out there, always feed.
Aren't you hungry?
I just came to work. Yeah.
That's very kind.
Yeah, I'm good. I just stopped out here to see what they were giving me.
Letlow also said she would work with the Trump administration to help the state get back some of the money spent to keep SNAP funded through November. If you have the means to donate food or volunteer your time, we have a list of charities and donation centers on our website and 9 News app. Guys.
Welcome back to the show, Missouri Senator, Mr. Eric Schmitt. Senator, thank you. Can I ask you a question? President Trump has been, very clear. He wants to end the filibuster and believes that's the way to carry the midterm elections. I don't know. I'm not hearing favorable reviews of that, but, you're such a smart fellow. I want to hear what you think about it. Am I missing something here or what?
No, look, I understand the president's frustration. I mean, you look at what's happening with this CR right now, where the Democrats are just completely, obstructing the ability to reopen the government in unprecedented ways, all because they just want to try to thwart anything that President Trump has anything to do with, or a Republican agenda. But I think we're going to get there. I'm hopeful that this week is the breakthrough, because Democrats, I think, have been using this election date, Larry, as sort of their D-Day. We're into November now. They want to keep their left flank energized. They're scared to death of them. They weren't going to do anything before the No Kings rally. They weren't going to do anything before this election. So regardless of how it turns out, they've been stoking this flame here. And I think that once today's over, the election's over, we'll get at least 5 Democrats to come over and reopen the government. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Air traffic controllers haven't been paid in a month. ICE agents haven't been paid in a month. It really is ridiculous and stupid.
I mean, the strategy's been an abomination. It's been a complete failure, if you ask me. And a lot of all these Democratic unions are saying, open the government, for heaven's sakes. Their own constituents are leaving them. But just to come back to the filibuster issue, I mean, I don't know of any senators that have come out and said, yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, Trump's a smart man. I'm just trying to... Wouldn't this open the door to a lot of Democratic mischief? Because someday they're going to have control.
Well, they certainly want to add states to the union. They want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to federalize election. They want to make voter ID laws illegal in states like Missouri. They have a pretty radical agenda that if they could do with 51 votes would be incredibly dangerous. But I think, in the short term here, we're going to get, I hope, that this is the week that we break through in the CR. The other thing that's important to note here, Larry, is that we'll have another opportunity to move forward an aggressive agenda with another reconciliation package. We've got another bite at that apple, probably into the new year. So I think there's a lot of priorities that we can get done. I mean, look, so much is in the one big beautiful bill: historic tax cuts, all the things that we did to secure the border for deportations and immigration support, or reform, I should say. So all those things are already done, but there are some more things we can do probably on the national defense side and for law enforcement. So we're not done yet moving forward this, I think, aggressive America First agenda that President Trump wants to see done.
I mean, I just wonder, you could carve out an end to the filibuster, sort of like sort of a junior reconciliation thing to get past this insane shutdown continuing resolution. The resolution, as you know, ends November 21st. So some's got to be done anyway. I mean, because it's upon us. It's only a fortnight away.
Well, that's the big discussion we had in our Senate lunch today. The Republicans were talking about extending. There's no way we're going to do this for 3 weeks. we're not going to give them another opportunity to grandstand 3 weeks from now. So I think we're going to give the amount of time necessary, probably just into the new year. There's some debate about December or January, but allow us to finish the appropriations bills, Larry. And that may seem like kind of in the weeds, but one of the significant things the Senate majority is doing right now under Senator Thune is actually doing the work that we're supposed to do, which is have appropriations bills on the floor. Right. Schumer never did that. You just ended up with an omnibus bill, at midnight that no one had ever read. We're not going to do that. We're going to have regular order. We're going to have the CR long enough to make sure we do approach bills, and I think that's the right path.
Well, good luck on it, Senator. You make a lot of sense. No, I think you're 100% right. Good luck on all of it, Senator Eric Schmitt of Missouri. Folks,
the election is over, but the Congress is still not working. Democrats and Republicans still not talking. At this point, now there's a Democratic governor in Virginia where a lot of people are being hurt by this shutdown. Are you comfortable continuing to hold out on reopening the government for even longer than this point? Do you think that is the right strategy for Democrats if Republicans don't commit to changes on the ACA subsidies?
I think Democrats need to keep fighting to preserve access to health care. And right now, millions are about to be separated from their health care because they can't afford their policies, thanks to what Donald Trump and the Republicans have done. Those notices are going out. People are checking online to see what they're going to have to pay. For a great many millions of Americans, they're going to have to pay double. That's unsustainable. So I think Democrats need to continue to fight for health care and make sure that those costs are brought down. The president campaigned on bringing down costs. They've done nothing but skyrocket. The president on his social media tonight acknowledged that the shutdown is part of the reason Republicans are losing. And it makes sense. They're controlling everything. They control the White House, the House, the Senate. They've been unwilling to negotiate with Democrats. And so I think we need to hold firm, demand changes that make healthcare affordable for people. I want to see the government reopen, but I also want to see people be able to afford their insurance. And it shouldn't be too much to ask in the wealthiest country in the world that we be able to do both, that we have both a functioning government, but also that we have accessible health care for people.
And Senator, these Democrats, and again, to Jackie Rosen, it only requires 5 Senate Democrats to vote to reopen the government. 3 of them have. Catherine Cortez Masto, Angus King, and John Fetterman. Mm-hmm. So they think, we're winning on this issue because of what happened yesterday. And now they're stepping up and demanding what? And literally threatening the safety of Americans by keeping the government closed.
Well, Dagan, they're claiming victory, but they're claiming victory for what? We didn't lose any areas that President Trump won last year. Virginia, Kamala Harris won by 5 points. New York, we never was even in the ballgame with. New Jersey's blue. And then California, my Lord, they're so blue, they're off the reservation. Who knows what's going on there? And so there isn't any area that we actually lost. They're just out there claiming victory because they had a night, and they should be worried. And who should be worried about this is Chuck Schumer, because I wouldn't be surprised if Mandami, he doesn't last 4 years in New York, but in 2 years he starts running against Chuck Schumer for the Senate. And so I have a hard time rationalizing where they're moving towards, but they're trying to inflict pain. And this is why the numbers of the approval rating for Democrats continue to shrink. At the same time, they have said openly, they're using the American people as leverage points. And it's sad because they have staff that's working for them that haven't received a paycheck for 36 days. Every one of us fly home on weekends right now, and we walk through TSA agents that haven't been paid in 36 days. We all require the tower to be manned, and they're making sure our flights get to and from destination, and those air traffic controllers aren't being paid. We have a law enforcement, that's Capitol Police, that is protecting all of us on a daily basis when we're in Washington, D.C., and those individuals aren't getting paid. It is, to me, the Democrats should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Instead, they're emboldened, and the demands they're asking is absolutely unreasonable. It's not even negotiable at this point. So what we're going to do in the Senate is we're going to put a bill forward tomorrow or Friday, and we're going to allow them to vote no again. But on this one, it's going to be an appropriation bill and a CR. So it's going to have 3 appropriation bills, and it's going to CR the other 9. The date is uncertain. It looks like it may be into January. And we're going to say, hey, do you want to open the government back up or not? And see what they do.
Boom. Senator Markwayne Mullin, you come back anytime, dear sir.
Thanks, Dagan. Appreciate you.
And I'll say it, Jared Golden, that's a loss. It's a loss for the Democrats. It's a loss for everybody.
He said that.
Okay, here's where we are at the beginning of the week. The Trump administration is making the healthcare crisis worse, adding on a food crisis. He refused to tap the $1 billion contingency fund for supplemental nutrition to go out to kids, our older neighbors, and folks with disabilities. 3 million Floridians now not having the food they need to survive. That's why we're here at Feeding Tampa Bay. Our food banks are trying to stand in the breach, but they can't do that. They will do everything they can, but SNAP is absolutely vital to the health and well-being of our neighbors. Meanwhile, they refuse to come to the table to cancel the cuts, to lower costs, to address the healthcare crisis. It's open enrollment, started November 1. These increases for many of our neighbors are astronomical. So we've drawn a line in the sand. We're going to fight for you. We're going to fight for your wallets to make sure that you can survive. Not just survive, but thrive and get the health care you deserve, and definitely the food aid for kids and our older neighbors who need it.
Congressman Jason Smith. Good morning to you, Mr. Chairman. So, look, many people think the government shutdown impacted the Virginia gubernatorial races, and that may be one of the reasons why Democrats had actually closed down the government. What is your reaction to what we saw happen yesterday?
So first, in regards to the election, let's not overreact. There has not been a Republican governor elected in Virginia or New Jersey in the last 2.5, 3 decades when a Republican is in the White House. That's just clearly how it works. The last time we had a Republican governor in the state of New Jersey, there was a Democrat in the White House. So this is just how the natural flow of things work. What the real concerning point is that New York City elected the leader of the Democrat Party, a socialist, a communist, and that is what's controlling Washington, D.C. If government's going to open in Washington, D.C., they should not ask Chuck Schumer. They should ask AOC because she's the leader of the party.
So I do want to move on and talk about the shutdown. Of course, Democrats, as you know, blaming Republicans for the shutdown, even though your House bill kept the government funded at Democrat and Biden levels. Why do you think Democrats are refusing to pass such a simple proposal?
It was all political reasons. They wanted to use this to help leverage harm against the American people to try to push forward their liberal objectives. They've been very clear about that. They've been saying it public that they are using the hurting people of America as leverage to get their priorities. This is the first time in the history of America, first time that any party has ever shut down government by just refusing to vote for a continuation of funding. First time, but they're doing that because they want to spend $1.5 trillion in new money. They want to make sure illegals are provided health care. They're wanting to cut funding to rural health care. It's absolutely bogus. It's not what the American people stand for, and it's not what 77 million people voted for last November.
Mr. Chairman, 36 days ago, when you originally passed this CR, November 21st sounded like a long way away. Gave you lots of time to get the appropriation bills done. But now the Senate's talking about saying there's not enough time. When Democrats do eventually decide to reopen the government, they're going to need to push that back. What do you think of that, and what's that timeline look like?
It will absolutely have to be pushed back because we're at November 5th today. That's 16 days away of funding. And in the House, we passed the continuation of funding way before 36 days ago. It was actually more like 50 days ago. It was passed out of the House of Representatives. But unfortunately, the Democrats have been continuing a filibuster in the United States Senate. And if they continue that, I think that senators might need to look in additional avenues to make sure that the American people aren't hurting anymore.
All right, Congressman, Mr. Chairman, Jason Schmitt, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good to see you. All right, let's keep this conversation.
Ever since Donald Trump re-entered the White House earlier this year, I've been talking about the 3 C's. I've been talking about the courts, the citizens, and Congress. The courts have been holding their own against presidential excess, most recently saying that during the shutdown, at least some partial SNAP benefits have to be paid so that people will not go hungry while the government is shut down. Yesterday, the citizens spoke, and they said they want to see affordability for food, housing, and energy costs, as well as accountability for their elected officials. And now it's time for Congress to act. Congress must come back into session, and we must work together, both to pass a budget that makes sense for affordability for all Americans, but also to make sure that everybody can have the health care they need. And what that means is restoring the premium supports so that every American can afford health insurance. Speaker Johnson can do it. He can bring us back into session, and I urge him to do that for the good of this nation.
Joining us now from Senate Small Business, Ohio Senator Jon Husted. Sir, it's great to see you, Senator. What's your reaction to this? You know, private property, it doesn't exist in the communist scheme. It still exists in New York City. It just be owned now by the state or someone's cousin on the city council. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think he's going to do first?
Well, he's going to be greeted by the laws of supply and demand before long, because economics are hard to avoid, and as he's going to run city-owned grocery stores and raise taxes on people, he's going to drive out investment, he's going to drive out prices, and he's going to get the exact opposite of what he promised. This will be unaffordability, not affordability in the city of New York. It's going to get worse, not better, just like Democrats have done all around the country. They drive out power plants and wonder why prices of electricity goes up. They don't have pipelines to pump in natural gas and gasoline, then they wonder why the prices at the pump go up. These are the realities that socialists and Democrats don't understand, and it's going to hit hard when it arrives in New York.
You know, he's a direct opposite of the prosperity agenda of presidents like Ronald Reagan. I mean, Mamdani said last night, quote, "We will prove that there's no problem too large for government to solve or care about." Reagan said those are the most terrifying words in the English language. Let's listen to President Trump today on Mamdani. Watch.
After last night's results, the decision facing all Americans could not be more clear. We have a choice between communism and common sense. Does that make sense to you? Common sense. It's common sense or communism. And you know, you take a look back 1,000 years, it hasn't worked. If it worked, we'd be using it, I guess, but it hasn't worked. Our opponents are offering an economic nightmare. We're delivering an economic miracle. We have delivered in 9 months.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Democrats have run New York City off and on for generations, including other cities in the U.S. That's why the city is unaffordable. So why do you think the Democrat Party is turning now into a socialist party?
They're doubling down on stupid. I can't understand how in the world they think that you're going to improve crime by not supporting police. I don't understand how they think prices are going to go down when the government gets involved. Name something where the government runs it where it got more efficient. Let's take healthcare. It's the #1 driver of inflation in the 21st century. Why? Because Obamacare. It doesn't work. Government takes it over. They drive up prices. Prices don't go down.
How can these policies be stopped out of D.C., out of the federal government?
Well, it's a really good question. I guess elect more Republicans and we can stop it. But that's why these elections matter. We have to elect people that understand how the economy works.
Senator Jon Husted, thanks for being with us.
We're in a Republican healthcare crisis. You may remember earlier this summer, the Republicans stood in solidarity with President Donald Trump, and they passed the Big Ugly Bill, which is the nation's largest healthcare cut in history. It's devastating, taking out $1 trillion from Medicaid, $500 billion from Medicare, and they were more interested in giving their billionaire buddies a tax cut than extending popular tax credits that working people count on in order to afford their health care coverage. We've been raising the alarm for months about these expiring tax credits and the impact that working families will experience because they will see their health care costs skyrocket. House Democrats have a simple ask. We need to cancel the cuts, lower the costs, and we need to come together to save our health care. And that's what this fight is about.